All right, welcome to another episode. I think it's 106 of the Grit and Grind Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, as always, David Sago, here with Mike Downey
All right.
and Patrice, the fire starter Gordon.
Fire starter. What's going on, guys? What's going on? Here to cause more ruckus wherever possible. Oh, you old basketball heads. Let's keep talking.
Just threw your list in, said I can't make it, and just let the fire burn, man. Let it blaze. So we're making more picks. Today we are going to be doing our NBA predictions. We're going to go through the major regular season awards and then finish up with our finals picks and our NBA champions. So we're going to start with the big one, MVP. Just jump straight into it. Tough one this year. A few different candidates. Mike, start us off. Who did you go with?
Ah, man, I struggled on this one. I really struggled. So I'm still deciding. I'm going to do your boy Tom proud and pick Luka.
Okay.
I think it would take a leap, and I'm sort of it's granted that it's a leap from beyond what he was last season. So it's almost like one of those MIP MVP sort of caliber seasons. But I just think that everybody else is in a bit of a weird one. You're expecting either one of the guys that has come back from an injury is going to be sort of playing at the level that they were before the injury, or one of the guys that you think maybe is a bit bored isn't and is going to show out in the regular season.
Right.
So it was very tough, but that's what I've landed on.
Okay. We'll talk after. Patrice.
So, man. Same. I'll put and stuff. Yeah. And just for the obvious reasons, really. I think he's had, since he's been in the NBA, he's kind of proved his worth. He's established himself as a kind of a true leader of a team. And I don't think many people, apart from the LeBron Jameses, really have that same kind of control over their team almost.
Yeah.
So I think with Luka, I think it's going to be the same thing going forward. Whether he has a up or down season in terms of stats and doesn't get as many triple doubles, I think just the fact of the way he controls the game, the way he plays, the way he orchestrates the team, ultimately, I think, it's a lot on his shoulders, and other players on other teams, obviously apart from LeBron, don't do the same thing that he can do simply. So whether he's lacking in any kind of stats or any particular area, I think he'll come through, and I think it's just well deserved, really. I think, I don't want to say he's got it already, but I think I don't know. I can't see any other. It's more about I can't see any other player rather than the way I can't see him necessarily taking a big leap, but at the same time I can't see anybody else taking that next step to where they need to be that kind of whole team player and stuff. So yeah, I agree totally. I had Jamal Murray next, but I don't think he's quite ready. Yeah, I think he's still more. I think he's still more of a scorer than a team player. So yeah, Luka, definitely.
Yeah. So you fully buy into what happened in the bubble, right? With the Jamal Murray stuff, given where you put him in your top 10. You think that he's turned the corner and this is him now?
Well, I think if he taps into the way he played and on a consistent basis, I definitely think he could be top 10, top 5 if he taps into that mentality all the time and doesn't, tone down his game to anybody. But it is, a question of winning games. It is a question of determination, and it's a question of being 3-1 down. You can't always, every regular season game is not 3-1 down. So it's got that mentality that he's got to display consistently, basically. But Luka, yeah.
That makes sense. Lots of people have gone for Luka. It does make sense for them. The only thing that would, I think, stop him winning this year is if they don't win enough games. I think they would have to be top 3 in the West for him to win MVP.
You think?
I think personally, unless the top three in the West was, say, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, which it could well be, and none of the players on those teams stood out from their star teammate, for example.
Right. Exactly.
And then the Mavs finished fourth, for example. And it was close. Maybe they ran them close. But yeah, it's the record that I think would hold him back. He's definitely in that position where you know, it's a great player with not much around him, the same way Giannis has been able to win the last couple of years. But I've gone for a dark horse pick, which is weird because he's won the award before. But I went for Kevin Durant.
That was my runner-up. I couldn't quite pull the trigger on it.
And I just think that with their high-powered offense over there at the Nets, I think they'll be good in the regular season. And even better for Kevin if Kyrie misses a few games through injury, as he's done the last few years. He can potentially just play out the season, assuming he can play back-to-backs and things like that, assuming he plays enough games. I think it would be quite possible that Giannis doesn't get the votes just because of voter fatigue.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Durant becomes a feel-good story. The media falls back in love with him. And he pulls off an MVP playing in the East for the first time. Yeah, I think they could end up with a high record over there, and he could take that award.
Can I remind you of the conversation that we had last week on the podcast?
Who was that?
You said in preseason he couldn't get past a guy and he'd lost a step.
Yeah. Then I watched the Boston game and he blew by Jaylen Brown and he blew by Jason Tatum, and I was like, oh, it's back. I told you.
I should have judged it on that one preseason.
Right? On that one preseason play. But yeah, I mean, it's a crapshoot. I also had AD as a potential MVP, with LeBron sort of putting him on a pedestal to win it. But I think regardless, people will always say he had LeBron, so they wouldn't give him that award, even if he deserved it.
How old is Kevin Durant now? He just had his birthday.
32.
Yeah. I think he's missed that boat, that window, or whatever it is, the phrase, due to his age and due obviously to the injury. I think, almost like, LeBron hit whatever. He hasn't won an MVP since he was probably like 29. Yeah, exactly. And I think they do tend to favor kind of younger players as well, kind of strangely, no matter how well they play. And stuff. And I think the same thing will be, they're going to watch his minutes because of his age. They're going to watch it because of his injury and stuff. And I don't know, I think he's smart enough not to burn himself out, if you know what I mean? Whereas younger players just go for it.
Yeah.
So I do think that he'll play caution or take caution to the wind and just play it safe. But he'll still look in control. But I think the playoffs, if they make it to the playoffs, which I assume they will, then we will see the MVP. But in the regular season, I don't think we'll see it. So.
Right.
That was my concern. I thought that he would be, well, he kind of has to use the regular season as rehab, right? And I could see him being in and out, and well, he's as Patris said, he's smart enough to sort of to know that you do enough to get there, and you don't go too crazy when you're coming off an injury and you're 32 in a condensed season. Is it condensed?
72 games.
72 games, yeah.
Yeah. And they're squeezing it in with 2 months left of the season. So it is condensed.
But in saying that, the way that Carmelo came back and they gave him the Player of the Week, I know it's not the same as MVP, but you say, "Hey, KD, welcome back." We missed you so much.
It's a good narrative.
Yeah, MVP.
Yeah.
So,
The other dark horse I was going to go for, it was a race of dark horses, was Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
In keeping with me thinking that they could be a top 3-4 seed in the West, I think with all that he does for that team, and the fact that he's never won it, and then everything that we've said about why other people might not win it, I think that's someone who it could fall to potentially.
And sadly enough, I thought another one might be Harden if he gets the trade over to the East.
Voted for by the media.
I was watching. Have you seen that clip of Harden where the player gives him behind the back pass and he's on the baseline and he hits him right in his belly and he's like, "Why did you pass me the ball?" Like, I don't. You got to see the clip.
He's not winning it in Houston, but if he goes over and then just destroys the East,
he might be deserving, but I don't think the media would condone his preseason build up.
Yeah, I don't think he can even play as well as he's played in Houston. In all fairness, I think just the way the freedom and hearing all those stories about everything that he got, turn up late, going to Vegas and doing whatever, he's not going to get that anywhere else. Can you imagine him going to Miami trying to do the same thing? No. Jimmy Butler just looking like, "What are you doing, bro?" So Harden's time, man, is like 38 points down to you may even barely get 29. We'll see.
Barely 29 is a bad year for the guy.
Yeah, land on a cloud, right?
Yeah. But you can't get it. You're not going to win MVP on a down year. If you
Kobe kind of did, but that's another story for another time. All right. So we move on to the other guys. So the guys and the other guys. So Tom and Jose couldn't make it today, but they did send in their lists. Tom picked Steph Curry as his MVP. That's another carry job MVP. And Jose picked LeBron as his MVP. Maybe as a makeup for last year, being the best player in the league and all that.
I think if there's no other clear runner, it kind of defaults back to LeBron, right?
I was going to say the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he's the best. Everybody knows that he's the best player in the league. So it's kind of like, unless somebody's going to take it away from him, then...
Yeah, I could see. I mean, I don't know. I do think the ship has kind of sailed. And I don't see him going for it either. Not like last year.
No.
Yeah. But I'm amazed. I was just still amazed at him, leading the league in assists. At his age, that's pretty amazing. So wouldn't surprise me if he does something that we don't expect.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So
absolutely,
that would make sense. So we move on to the MIP award, Most Improved Player. This is normally just a crapshoot. You're just throwing darts at names on the wall. I don't even normally like predicting this award period, but I've gone for Lonzo Ball.
Okay.
I just figured a player who hasn't necessarily found their way in the league yet. He had quite a few injuries last year, but he did improve his jump shot. Hopefully this year he improves his free throw shooting. And then he's in a spot in New Orleans where there's potential for them to outdo expectations, or at least for him to outdo expectations in his play. That was about it. I don't even know who else was really in the running.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I went for another point guard, Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox. Just felt like obviously he's got that new kind of big contract. They've kind of made him the leader of that team and stuff. I was watching some highlights of him, and the guy's super quick, and stuff like that, and slivery. Just needs to get his jump shot up, but I think he's got potential of taking, averaging maybe another 5 points a game, which I think would then take him over the edge. If he can get Sacramento near the playoffs, if they can maybe get 10th spot, then I think definitely he'll win it. The other person I had was Will Barton, just because obviously Nuggets are loaded, but just because he's that kind of, I see him as a kind of an X factor player, where when he's there, definitely a bonus. But when he was missing last year, I think the team felt it. So I think if he has a good season, I think he could be up for it as well.
Mm.
Yeah. I had Bam Adebayo. I think it's kind of a nod to the playoffs last year, essentially. I think that people will want to give him something, and I believe that the confidence that he'll have in his own game now, as opposed to like last year, is just going to skyrocket, and the confidence that the coaching staff have got in him to lead or co-lead the team.
That makes sense. Has anyone watched any Heat preseason games? Does anyone know if they're starting him at center now? Because that was the big thing for me. That's what made them such a different team in the playoffs to what they were in the regular season. Was Bam was starting at center rather than Olynyk or Leonard starting.
Yeah,
and that sort of propelled the team to where they ended up getting. And I was curious as to whether they'd go back to that starting a center with Bam this season.
I think they start with Leonard, and then I think as the game goes on, they put Bam at 5.
Right.
He'll finish.
I think it depends on the matchup or who they're playing against. If they've got someone, I think they don't want to wear him out, so they just kind of start him with Leonard.
Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. I did just think while you guys were talking that another candidate would be OG Anunoby.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got a net contract as well, and he showed some good offensive flashes in the playoffs. I don't think he's going to be a go-to scorer or anything. They already have Van Fleet and Lowry and Siakam, but his offensive game has definitely developed from where it was a couple of years ago, and he was given Tatum some work in the playoffs. So we'll see how that progresses as well.
Mm-hmm.
Next one. Oh no, the guys. So MIP Tom went with Zion Williamson. Interesting pick.
Yep.
Assuming he stays healthy, I guess. And then Jose went with Bam Adebayo as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think with Zion, I think he had a stellar rookie season. But to say he'd be most improved, I think he'll just be the same as he was in the previous season, primarily just because I don't think they expect too much from him, or they don't want him to do anything. I think he's got that kind of thing about him where he wants to win. I think because he didn't win at Duke as well, in particular. But I don't think he will do anything beyond the stuff that he can do already. I haven't seen it. I don't think I've seen it yet. I think he needs, like you said, if Lonzo Ball plays well, then potentially he could help him. But I think Lonzo will probably get over him first.
Yeah, it's a thing where I think from Zion we're going to see more of the same, but it's just that we're going to see it for a whole season now rather than the few games that he played last year. Yeah, I don't expect him to do anything crazy different. Although he has, what was he doing? He ran a little bit of point in the preseason, and they had Lonzo setting screens for him and stuff. So that's an interesting wrinkle that we might see from Zion and the Pels.
Yeah, I just don't like the second year pick. It's kind of like...
Neither do I, but it happens, right?
Yeah,
or the high pick as well. The number 1 overall pick. Next up, DPOY. The guys that guard the paint mostly. I flip-flopped on this. I had Giannis down, and then at the last minute I changed it to Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. And I did that because hey man, scream it from the rafters. I did that because I think the Lakers actually have less defensive personnel this year than they did last year. And and so I think Anthony Davis is going to have to do more on the defensive end than he did last year, and I think that's going to lead to better advanced stats defensively, which doesn't mean a whole lot if you know advanced stats. But yeah, I think he'll benefit from having a worse defensive roster this season.
And on like a narrative front, as opposed to.
Do you need a narrative for Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, it tends to like I think narrative whoever the media get behind and start saying, look at this defensive beast.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, I mean, he definitely proved his value in the finals. Yeah, and I think Miami would like kind of scared to go inside, and he blocked. The guy's a tremendous shot blocker, and he's got great presence. But again, I think he will just reserve his energy. I think what he did, I think when he joined the Lakers, he was all about telling LeBron defense. I think now they've won the chip, they're like, okay, pace.
Right.
And I think that will result in, times where he's not kind of inspired defensively just because he's thinking about the bigger picture. So, I think who could come back? Because I'm thinking about it, because I had Davis as well.
Right.
But I think the only player, obviously apart from Giannis, even though I'm not 100% fixated on Giannis like that defensively, I thought this guy's going to make a comeback. This guy is going to show why he was voted twice Defensive Player of the Year. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Kawhi Leonard. His hand, like, see my hand on the screen like that. Yeah. Kawhi's going to come back. And he's going to be like, guys, he's not going to say a word. He's just going to let his actions go like this. And he's just going to be a beast and stuff like that. Because obviously, we know the Clippers have got so much to prove this season.
They do.
And he does.
Tyronn Lue is a kind of defensive kind of coordinator background. So I think Kawhi will tap into that, definitely.
But again, games. Is he going to play enough games for him to be considered for these awards?
Yeah, but we don't know if any of these players are going to play enough due to the bubble and due to Corona going crazy. So it's hard to speculate on that front.
True.
I just think where they are right now, I think Kawhi is going to shut some people down. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my only concern about it is how it went and how they were as a team, because I always see sort of defense as being such a team-based activity. You got
sure.
defensive player might as well be defensive team of the year for me. So that's my concern. If they can sort out their chemistry issues, and Harrell's gone, so that could help with that. But yeah, we'll see. I took the one that you mentioned but didn't pick. I picked Giannis.
To repeat,
I think that I don't think he's going to get MVP, but I think people still like him enough, and we'll still I think they'll still end up with a very, very high regular season record. They want to give him something. But yeah, I completely see what you were saying as well, Patris.
I think I agree. I think if him and Paul George get it together from the top and just start showing some real energy. I know Patrick Beverley's more of a verbal guy, but I think it's up to Paul George and Kawhi to kind of get it together and say, we're going to stop teams and stuff. And they've got the ability to do it. I think they've just got to not worry about load management and all the other factors and just dig in. And I think, Kawhi's definitely got the ability to do that. So I don't see why he can't do it. But, I just think now they went down 3-1 and they lost that series. Everyone's been like, oh, they're again. And I just think if he's got any sense of pride in him, he's going to come back hard, and that's exciting to watch. So we'll see.
I like the pick. I really like the pick. I think it's a good shout.
All right, the guys.
It gets worse.
So the guys went with Tom first. He kept it French. Went with newly minted Rudy Gobert, the £205 million man, $1 million man. Everybody has his price. And Jose went with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Hey, we're matching up with Jose quite a bit here, right?
Yeah, it's almost like you saw his list and just copied it.
Love that.
All right. So next one up is Sixth Man of the Year. I didn't do anything creative. I didn't go around the league and think about who might win this and did that. I just went with Trez because I know he's going to come off the bench for the Lakers, and I know he can produce off the bench for the Lakers. And I think there'll be times when the Lakers won't need to play or bring back AD and LeBron because Trez will be going off on some poor, unsuspecting team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Plenty of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Picked him last year, picked him this year.
I like Trez. I think that's a good, obvious choice and stuff. I thought his defense was a bit shaky from time to time, but I think he was always a producer. But yeah, in terms of six man on my choice, I stuck with the Clippers. Funny enough, and you're thinking who from the Clippers? But I thought Reggie Jackson. And obviously he was a starter in Detroit. Obviously he's been six man before at OKC previously, and obviously after Luka shook him up on that buzzer beater and stuff like that, and then he didn't get any court time against the Nuggets down the line. Doc Rivers is now left as well.
Yeah.
I can only perceive it as it being Reggie's going to have more minutes because obviously Patrick Beverley we know is quite limited, and Reggie is a natural point guard. He's got great handle and stuff. And I think again, Clippers are just in that situation where they've got to prove or bust. If they don't prove, they're going to bust. And I think people are going to be surprised. Reggie Jackson, I think he's still got it. I think he's still got a lot of ability. He showed flashes every now and again, but it's just whether he can do it for a season. And obviously, if Lou Williams will pass him the ball as well. But I think, Reggie Jackson. I think he's going to surprise a few people. So that's my pick.
Yeah,
crazy.
I went with Karis LeVert. I think that's who I picked last year. He was coming off the bench in preseason, and the guy can just get a bucket.
Yeah.
And the guy that comes off the bench and scores gets Sixth Man of the Year quite a bit.
Pretty much.
So we'll just have to see. I like the guy, and he's had like a really rough run of it with injuries and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a broken man team. So I'm hoping that he has a good, healthy season. And I think that if he does, then he can quite easily take that award.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Another one would be
could be on a completely different team. Who knows?
There's potential for that. Another good shout would be whoever doesn't start amongst the guards in Miami, whether that's Dragic, Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, whatever they do with their lineup over there. Whoever comes off the bench would be a good shout. And then also the Nuggets. If Will Barton starts and Millsap starts, then I could see MPJ potentially getting Sixth Man of the Year because he again is a bucket.
He could be in for MIP as well.
Yeah, he could. He could for sure. What is next? The guys. So it's because I have to change app. So sixth man from Tom is Montrezl Harrell of the Los Angeles Lakers, and sixth man for Jose is Montrezl Harrell for the Los Angeles Lakers.
All right. Has there been a back-to-back six-man ever?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Ginobili's done it, and Lou Will's done it. Jamal Crawford, maybe? I don't know if he ever went back-to-back. I know he won it.
He's probably only about 5 of them. They've run it. It seems like they repeat it, or they've won it a few times.
Yeah, I don't know if Kevin McHale won it more than once back in the day because he was one of the best six men ever.
I think the guys that like settle into it and don't have an ego about it, and have a coach that sort of is helping them with that, they tend to do pretty well, right?
Yeah.
I
just think the problem is that it's pretty much the top scorer off the bench that gets it. every year, and I wish they would take more things into account, because someone like Iguodala was an excellent sixth man without necessarily scoring a bunch of points.
They did win MVP though. So.
Yeah,
final of the finals. So.
That might have made up for it a little bit. He needs to give that award to Steph.
Yeah, Steph's still crying about it, isn't he? Where's my MVP?
As he should be.
Oh dear.
All right, so we move. Next up, we have the Rookie of the Year, which I think is a tough one. Me and Mike were talking about earlier, because we haven't had Summer League. Normally we get Summer League to see all the rookies and young players play and start to dip their toe into what it's like playing for an NBA team against other NBA caliber players. But this year they were thrust straight into preseason. There's been some interesting performances, to say the least. But personally, I went with someone who we haven't seen perform in the preseason, and that is James Wiseman.
Okay.
And I went there because he obviously had the potential. People were talking about him as being a potential number one pick. And then he's gone to a team in the Warriors where the organization is in the right place. And he's going to, I assume he's going to start and playing with Curry and then Draymond. I think he's going to be in a great spot to do some things. And they've never had a center as offensively talented as him. I think the closest was David Lee. So, yeah, I think they'll be able to put him in certain spots and do certain things to propel him to the award as the season goes on.
I watched him that game, I think, before he got suspended at Memphis, just to kind of find out what all the hype was about and stuff like that. And I don't know, I think defensively he can obviously fit in straight away. Draymond just dishing him the ball and him catching alley-oops and doing whatever offensively. But I don't know whether, because he seemed to remind me of a David Robertson, kind of little lefty, and he's got that kind of soft touch, by the hoop and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just, for Rookie of the Year, I don't think he's going to put up massive numbers in that system. So I don't know if he's going to, have that kind of impact where, he may have a great season in relation to the team, but if he has one in relation to the public or enough to get enough votes, I'm a bit hesitant on that standing. But yeah, nothing against his talent, definitely. So, yeah.
That's fair.
But my one,
keep going.
So the flip side of that is Anthony Edwards, obviously number one pick and stuff like that. I watched him at Georgia a couple of games and stuff like that. He had green light to just bomb away and stuff. And he had a couple of good games where you can say, you'd be like, wow, this guy's, he's a cut above the rest. He's a great shooter. He's got a great body. He's got great size and stuff like that. And also, because he's on the Timberwolves as well, I think they need that kind of injection of something, and I think they're going to give him the green light and let him do what he needs to do. Maybe calm him down, Cat will probably say, calm down a little bit, young fella. But at the same time, they're not a system, they're not a culture like the Warriors or like anybody else, really. So I think he will have free reign, and he'll have a handful of games where he have 20 or maybe even a couple of 30-point games. And I think that will give him the edge. But it doesn't mean that he's consistent or he's efficient.
Yeah.
It just mean that he's high volume and he's looking good, and the Timberwolves still maybe bottom of the league, but he will still get those votes just because he's a rookie. And I think rookies are not expected to change the world like they used to be. They're very much one and dones at university, come in, they prove their reputation, and then after that, let's see what happens, So I think he'll get by on that basis.
Mike?
I went for the media pick. I went for the start. Suck it in. I'll go with LaMelo Ball.
Okay.
I just think that the Hornets have been terrible, and he's going to have the ball in his hand an awful lot. So it'll either work and he'll be right up there, or it'll be bad and the Hornets are going to be really bad. But he hasn't. His scoring is is a problem, or it has been a problem for the preseason. But I don't know if that's just him figuring it out a little bit, or it could just be a sign of actually he's not that great of a shooter.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't shown to be very good at shooting, even in Australia or anywhere else. And that's why I just couldn't go for him. I think he'll be exciting. He'll have highlight plays every single game with some of the passes that he throws and the way he plays on the break. But he's coming off the bench for one. And then, yeah, as you said, the scoring just isn't going to be there for the award.
Do you think he'll come off the bench for the whole season? Do you think old what's his face?
Probably.
Rosier, right?
I think he's more deceptive than people give him credit for. You know, I think you see him and you think he's not got his form's very shaky. He makes a few kind of passes here and there. I think he'll maybe start off kind of badly and he'll have quite a few turnovers. But I think once he finds his footing, I think he could be a triple-double machine. I mean, the way he's played in Australia, even though he obviously was Australia, but I think it's also that kind of, I won't say Luka training, but he's played against men, you know, and he's familiar and he's going to do things that people don't expect. And he's been in the spotlight for however many years. So people are, you know, he's familiar with, you know, so he's not going to be worried about kind of what people say about him. So I think he's going to surprise kind of a lot of people, really. So it wouldn't surprise me, but it would surprise me. He's like rookie of the year, but yeah, let's see.
Yeah, he doesn't lack for confidence, that's for sure.
Exactly.
A few other guys around the league. Halliburton's looked really good in preseason. He just seems to really fit over there. He wanted to be there, which is weird. He, I think he told teams to not ask him for workouts and things like that because he wanted to drop to them at 12th, I think he was. Him in Sacramento. Cole Anthony's looked pretty good in Orlando.
That was my other shout.
Yeah, shouts to my man Diplomatic, who's been preaching magic to me every weekend. Who else? Yeah, Edwards, you mentioned, it's the shot selection for me, and the fact that it seems they purposefully didn't take LaMelo Ball because they wanted the ball to be in D'Angelo Russell's hands. And I think that's going to stifle some of his freedom to shoot and create and do what he wants over there. But it'll be an interesting rookie class, actually. I'm really interested to see them all play. Avdija as well, Danny Avdija.
A lot of people have been pretty high on Obi Toppin.
Yes.
Knicks. I don't know if it's just Knicks fans.
No, it's not. It's not. Offensively, he has he's quite talented. He's really athletic and he can actually shoot quite decently or frequently, at least from outside. And offense wins most of these awards. So
yeah, and it's one person on the Knicks that can actually shoot. So it
might help. Who knows? Tibbs might bench him for taking shots from too far away from the basket.
I forgot that they've got tips. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. All right. The guys. Before I forget. So Tom went for the aforementioned Obi Toppin at the Knicks. Homer pick. And Jose went for LaMelo Ball.
I swear I didn't just copy his list.
It's whatever, man. It's whatever. We should get you a Jose mask. How's your Spanish?
Great.
So we move on to Coach of the Year. This was probably the hardest one for me, to be honest. We know who the great coaches in the league are. But this is one of the awards that definitely normally has a narrative behind it, because it's normally a coach who either coaches up a team that you didn't think would do this well, or a coach who shows that his excellent team is excellent, as Pop has gotten it before, Phil Jackson has gotten it before. I went for a coach whose team I think will make a jump this year, and that is Monty Williams.
Okay.
Coaching the Suns. Now they have Chris Paul, they have Jay Crowder, a few more adults to put around Devin Booker, whose game is really maturing, and DeAndre Ayton, who's also starting to come into his own. And I think while none of them will get individual accolades, I think Monty will get the credit for the jump that I expect them to take in terms of wins this season. And I think as long as they get a playoff berth or at least one of the top 8 seeds, regardless of what happens in the play-in tournament, I think he could be a shoo-in for the award.
Where was he before? Was he at New Orleans?
Yeah, he was at New Orleans until maybe 3 years ago, I think.
No, he was at the Sixers. He was at
Oh, he was an assistant.
Yeah, he was an assistant at the Sixers.
Okay, because he lost his wife or some car accident or something. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Who won it last year? Sorry, I forgot who won Coach of the Year last year.
I was just thinking that Nick Nurse.
Nick Nurse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good on Nick Nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, because I was thinking for my Coach of the Year, I'll probably put someone like Frank Vogel, primarily just because I suspect the Lakers, and we all kind of expect the Lakers to kind of do well kind of this season. But I think it's about motivation, isn't it? So I think this time around, he'll be kind of more seen as, oh wow, kept them going, he kept them pumped up, he kept them juiced, and strategy and tactics. He's got different players. He hasn't got playoff Rondo anymore, so it's going to be a lot of, oh, okay. It's not just LeBron and AD, it's Frank as well. I think he'll get that kind of credit he deserves. So I think that'll kind of be the story kind of behind why he gets the nod. And I assume the Lakers will kind of do well, in the Western Conference, where he can validate getting that nod. Definitely.
Yeah.
Frank wants his respect, Mike.
Not getting it from me. I went similar to last year's one. I've gone for Spo, the winner of the Eastern Conference. I think last year really elevated him to a different level in everybody's eyes for his coaching prowess. Yeah, and I think that he knows what he's got with Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo now. So I think they'll just do better. The East is going to get a bit harder, which makes it a bit tricky. But yeah, I think they'll be like solidly in the sort of top end of the East.
Yeah,
suppose one of them characters where I think he should win it every year. You know what I mean? He's kind of perseverance and just the way he just, he's not a big X's and O's, but he's got that kind of personality that players seem to kind of really align with, and I find that he gets the most out of players' abilities kind of really well. So I really like Spo just as a kind of person, you know what I mean? He's a good advice, but
yeah, he is good at X and O's as well. Don't get it twisted. He was a video coordinator, so he knows his X's from his O's for sure. Moving over to the guys, Tom had Rick Carlisle at the Mavs, which I think is a good shout. If they perform well in the West, I could see him definitely getting the award. And Jose had Mike Malone. Again, I think if they end up with a top 2 seed in the West, I could see him winning the award. And he's improved a lot as a coach. He's gotten a lot better with that team. He's grown with the team. And I think that would be another feel-good story for them to get that award, for him to get that award. Finally, in terms of awards, we have Executive of the Year. Mike, do you want to kick things off?
Ooh, I'm just going to say a team because I don't know the name. I think the Nets as exec is going to get
It's Sean Marks at the Nets, I believe.
Marks. Yes, I did know.
He's quite new as well, isn't he?
Yeah, but they have been raving about him for quite some time. And yeah, I think the Nets are going to take a jump for me.
Right. The only reason I've seen a couple of other people pick Sean Marks as well. For me, that's a weird pick just because like Kyrie and KD were signed last season, not this season.
Yeah, but they didn't play. So, you're not going to give it to them last season. You're not going to give it to him last season, are you?
Okay. Gonna give it to him for transactions made two years before. All right.
For dodging and hardening.
Stop it. The Harden slander needs to stop. Patrice, take it away.
I went with 76ers Elton Brand.
Not
Because
anymore.
Not anymore? Is he not there?
It's
It would be
Daryl
Daryl
Morey
Morey. Well,
crikey.
it depends on who. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they give it to the GM, sometimes they give it to the executive. I don't.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So whoever's running the show up there,
Yeah.
I think getting Doc Rivers for one is a big power move. So I think that's great. And I think getting rid of Al Horford, just admitting that he's stinks up the place, I think that's a great move as well. And also just acknowledging that Ben Simmons can't shoot, so you get Seth Curry on the wing there as well. I think these are just amazing moves. So I think even if I think they've accepted their flaws or even their abilities or strengths and just said, we've got to tap into these different areas. And then getting rid of what's his name, Brown, I can't remember the guy's name. But I think it just shows real kind of growth in their kind of movements as well. So I think they still think they've got a chance, and I think everyone still thinks they've got some good players. But I think they built a kind of a nice little framework around them. So I expect to see good things for the Sixers this year.
Yeah, makes sense. They're quite an unpredictable one, actually, the Sixers. I don't know if they're going to be like top 3 in the East or flag.
I just don't think they will stink. I just don't think
it's difficult for them too with everyone healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going to be like amazing wow, but I think they're going to be so much better than they were last year. In terms of like the way they performed, they were just terrible on the road last year. And I think they just have more consistency this year. Whether they'll be a dominating team, that remains to be seen. So
and I wasn't going to say anything, but there was a clip on Lakers Reddit. Shouts to Lakers and the Reddit, where Danny Green was wide open for a 3 in the corner and he shot an air ball. And the commentator's like, "Oh, and Danny Green in the corner." And then he just doesn't say anything.
Yeah, they picked up Danny Green. Yeah.
That's 2-time NBA champion Danny Green. Damn it.
Yeah.
He wants
Top
his respect
defender.
too.
There you go.
3 times, sorry. 3 times. 2 times reigning.
Hey.
Where are we at? So the guys. No, let me go before the guys. I had Rob Pelinka. Now, I had Rob Pelinka last year.
How many times have you got Lakers or a Lakers player?
I didn't even notice I had a bunch of Lakers. I forgot Harrell was even a Laker. Does Lonzo count as a Lakers player?
Oh, and there's affiliation.
Well, when we do champions and finals, you're going to hear a little bit more about the Lakers. But the answer is 3. I had Rob Pelinka last year. And I remember you guys were like, "Oh no, getting LeBron was the real work." No. AD, Caruso, Dwight Howard,
McGee.
Yes, JaVale McGee, championship roster. And I think this year they're gonna, as partly a makeup, and then also because for the good work he did this summer, I think Rob Pelinka is in the running for this award, and I'm gonna pick him. I'm going to pick him. I think we made the best off-season moves.
The best?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, they did some good stuff.
We'll see. It worked out. I did not think last year getting Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, JaVale McGee into the Lakers.
JaVale and Rondo were already there, right?
I think they just joined at the end of the last
No, Rondo was definitely there the season before.
Yeah, they've both been there because
JaVale was there the year before.
Yeah,
having them all on the same team. He was responsible for the roster, and that was part of the roster. Is what I mean.
Yeah.
But I think because Cousins got injured and they got Howard in last season, which was people kind of said, "Oh, Dwight Howard's finished," but I think making him accept his role as just a kind of primary rebound and defensive guy, I think that was a big play. So.
I think he's great now. I think he's one of the best players out there.
Wow,
Wonder where he
I'm
is.
on the wrong podcast.
It's gonna help the Sixers.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer for sure.
NBA
Yeah, exactly. Reigning NBA champion Dwight Howard. He wants his respect too. So the guys, Tom went for Sean Marks at the Nets.
Cool.
And Jose went for Travis Schlenk at the Hawks, which I think is a very good pick. That's another team that made some excellent off-season moves. Put some adults with Trey Young. And I think they'll make the playoffs. So we move on to NBA Finals. So who makes it out of the East? Who makes it out of the West? I'm going to go first because I think mine is very generic. I've got a repeat of this year's finals.
Really?
I do.
That's interesting.
I can see the Heat beating everyone in the East. The one team that I don't know if they can handle is actually the Nets. The Nets can't defend.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know if the Heat can deal with Kyrie and KD. Yeah, in fact, I know they can't deal with Kyrie and KD not in the playoffs. Not with what those two can do in the playoffs. But yeah, I think against the rest of the field, I think they have the best shot. I think they could do what they did to the Bucks again. I think they can. I don't know. Maybe Philly could beat them. They don't really have anyone to guard Embiid. So yeah, but yeah. On aggregate, I think they have a great shot of getting back to the finals again. And then on the other side, obviously the Lakers, because we want our respect.
Sounds good. Sounds, as you said, very generic. But I think truth word spoken, definitely. And I think beating those two teams is going to be a hard feat for anyone, especially in a 7-game kind of series. But I put, just because you kind of guys know I'm a big fan of one particular player, so I put the Denver Nuggets as the champions. Primarily because Jamal Murray is going to explode and everyone's be like, damn, it wasn't a fluke. What he did, he is the man, he is amazing. But obviously he's got, Nicholas in the middle. The other guys around him will kind of finally wake up and show some maturity and kind of do what they've got to do, because they've always been on the edge of kind of taking it to their next step. So I think they may just get lucky this season. The chips may fall, other players around them may get injured or COVID, God willing. So who knows? But I think it could be the Nuggets year, and Mike Malone is a great coach as well. So definitely see the Nuggets kind of getting through. Against, I think the only team that can possibly beat the Heat right now, I would say, is actually Toronto Raptors. And I say that because I think Fred VanVleet, we know he's got something to prove. He's got chip and shoulder, signed a big contract as well. Kyle Lowry's not getting any younger. You mentioned OG as well, coming up as well. Siakam played terrible in the bubble, so he's got a lot to prove, get that all-star status as well. I think they've got some key or a lot of kind of growing players on the bench who I like, but haven't taken the next step yet. So they've got Terrence Davis, who's going to be a beast at times, but just got to get some consistency. And Boucher, who catches crazy alley-oops and does whatever. So I think they've got a little nucleus building and forming, and they've also got that experience as well. So I think if they can mesh the two, I think they could take the Heat, definitely. I think the Heat will eat themselves. In a strange way. I feel like they probably thought at the back of their minds, thinking it was lucky that we got there, because no one expected it, and they're going to start believing it, and I think they're going to eat themselves.
They believe it.
That's what
they still think they should have won. I promise you.
Yeah.
I think so. But I think Toronto, they are champions, so I think they may have that mental edge over the Heat if they met them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think what happened with Siakam in the bubble was interesting and quite surprising. So if he can turn that around, he could be onto something there. But the East,
he's Giannis light.
Very good.
Siakam is Giannis light.
Yeah,
that's what happened to him in the bubble. The same thing that happens to Giannis happened to him. It just happened more easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
We plan him out.
I'm not gonna say a word there because fire starters coming up.
I forgot where you had Giannis on your list. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got the Lakers versus the Sixers. I think the Lakers. It's a given. We know what they've got. There's not a lot to talk about there. And the Sixers is a homer pick. Like, come on. I gotta believe in my guys. I'm really interested to see what they're gonna do. Like a lot of what Patris was talking about in the exact sort of shout. Owning what they are and not just trying to buy into sort of star power to get the big names in. Working out actually what works with the pieces that they have will be a benefit. It sounds like a simple thing to say, but complementary pieces.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, again, who knows what's going to happen before the trade season, before the trade deadline, even. But yeah, it's either get there or blow it up, essentially, right? Well, this is the last chance for those guys.
If you believe the reports, Simmons has been on the table.
They love to do that, but that's what I mean. They're getting that sort of conversation now because they haven't achieved to their potential. So now they've got to prove it, or that will happen. You've got to assume, because the Sixers have that ambition, so it's got to be shown now.
Yeah, got to prove it.
And I think if they're not looking like a dominant team come Christmas, but that is
it is upon us.
Whenever the trade deadline is this year, then I think they'll pull the trigger early, to be honest.
Oh wow! You think they would trade one of them during the season? That would be insane.
If it's Daryl Morey now, he will do what it takes to get the maximum value out of his assets.
For sure.
Probably get Harden in.
Yeah,
he should. I reckon they would walk to the Eastern Finals with Harden. Honestly,
I think they would.
I think Harden and Embiid, they will walk.
Maybe next season, but then what?
That's all that matters. If you get one, that's all that matters. There's loads of people are like, oh no, I'd rather 10 years of Simmons than 2 years of Harden. I'm like, no.
I
win a freaking championship.
Yeah,
like do what it takes.
And that's kind of been the philosophy, hasn't it? It is shoot for championship or bust. And we went bust, so now we're kind of like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. But I agree with the sentiment of I would rather have the thing that's going to get you over the edge to the championship than potential.
Yeah. So since we've mentioned Simmons and the Sixers, it's tradition now for me to bring up the bet that I have with a few of my friends. Mike's in on it. I've mentioned it on the podcast recently. Simmons needs to make 12 threes this season for me to not have to split the cost of 7 dinners, is it? with Mike.
Yeah.
Is he gonna make it, Patris? Is he gonna make it 12 threes?
No. what's that? That's like.
Damn it! Oh, we need to prorate it because it's a 72 game season.
Yeah,
That's
it's
one
like
every 3 games, right? No. Oh. It's not
Where's my
happening.
calculator app?
It's 11, Div. It's fine.
Okay, 11 threes. 11
11
threes.
threes. Is that one every 3 games?
Yeah.
It's easy, light work.
But he's just not in his DNA, you know. I think he gets to that point where it's just like, why am I doing this when I can dominate players with my size and strength and speed?
And hook shots.
I mean, he's good on the block, you know. I think he can shoot if he wanted to, but he's just not wired at all, and that's a good thing. I think it's a great asset not to have, in all fairness.
To know your game.
But I think defenses will just kind of step back, and he still will just go in and rather get the charge than shoot it through. You know, that's the way he is.
All right, so the guys for the last time, Tom. NBA Finals, Lakers versus Nets. He has the Lakers winning. Smart man. Jose has Nuggets versus Bucks, and he too has the Nuggets winning a championship.
Good choice.
I think that's Campazzo homerism. I do think we've kind of slept on the Nuggets, to be honest. How did that come from?
Where's Tom?
Where's Tom when you need him, right? We've got. I do think we've kind of slept on them. We saw that Jeremy Grant left and what's his name left as well, Plumlee. And for some reason, I know I got it into my head that they've lost all the depth that they had when they've really lost one player who was actually good, and they still have Bol to develop, they have MPJ to develop, and they have Will Barton returning, and they added Campazzo. So they're probably actually better on aggregate than they were last year. So they're definitely going to be a tough out.
Yeah,
but they will be out. We're going to get it done.
You can't bet against LeBron. And you can't bet against LeBron.
Not when he's got a squad. Who did you have winning, Mike? I don't think you said your champion.
I don't think I did. Lakers. Yeah, I've got the Lakers.
Okay.
Again, don't bet against LeBron.
Cool. All right. So that wraps things up in a bow. What else was I gonna say? Patris, plug your stuff, man. Putting out some good content. Yeah,
man. Come see me at Blank Screen Basketball. Look for me on IG, Twitter, Spotify. Do a search, Blank Screen. I'm putting out weird and crazy kind of podcasts about all your favorite players. I've got a couple of books about all your favorite players and stuff like that. So learn a bit about them. Don't just analyze and watch them. Learn about their backstories, what makes them so motivated. So kind of, who they are and why they are. And just look for the name is Blank Screen, and just more basketball content beyond grit and grime. So all good. Cheers, man.
Yeah, no worries. Mike, plug your stuff. No, I'm joking. That's it from us. Get us on social media at Grit and Grime Pod across all platforms. Remember to leave a rating on whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. If they do that, I know some don't. 5 stars, please. You have any feedback, let us know. Just message us, email us, whatever. Like, share, subscribe, review, tell your friends, and just do anything you can to help us get the word out on the podcast. I've been your host, David Sago. Michael Downey.
Season starts tonight, right?
Tonight.
Get the snacks in, guys.
Patris.
5 stars.
Peace. And we're out of here.